Marla McGivers.
Marlon McGivers? Who's Marlon McGivers?
Khan's wife.
Oh, I know Marla Singer. What?
Yeah. She was the one that he
Oh,
seduced back in Space Seed.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This bitch. It's always somebody like her. She's an anthropologist. I quote Sterling Archer, thus continuing the cycle of why bother.
I noticed Khan never says her name. He just says my wife.
I would say I do that too, but no, I always say Sabrina
Or Bean.
or Bean. Occasionally Pond. At which point she yells Pond with a big exclamation, like happy face.
Okay,
Okay.
let's do things.
Do things and stuff.
What just happened? I thought that comes out with a background.
What? Oh, it shows up as a ghost first. If you don't want it, you just move away. Then, if you want it,
Right.
same thing happens with apps. If you want to switch to an app, it shows you the most recent one, and you can move down to get the whole list. But if you don't want it, it just goes away.
Okay.
Yeah.
This has been a lesson in Windows 8, which you will need many. Welcome to Star Trek Asterisk, the weekly podcast where we talk about Star Trek after watching it.
And you get slightly confused momentarily because I point at you accusingly.
Today we watched possibly one of the greatest movies on the entire planet. Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan.
Whoa, I'm sorry. Did you say possibly? Because this is definitely one of the best movies on the entire planet.
Okay, definitely one of the best movies on the entire planet. Star
You're
Trek
welcome.
2: The Wrath of Khan.
Two Kirks, a con, and a pizza place.
Are we including Thor in this?
No. Two Kirks, because there was Kirk, and then his son, who technically by genetics is a Kirk.
Technically, I suppose.
Two Kirks, a con, and a pizza place.
Okay, if you're gonna go technicalities, I suppose.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, so in this episode we have the return of the great Khan Noonien Singh, who we were introduced to in the episode Space Seed of the original series.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of that episode, he was marooned on SETI Alpha 5 with all of his augment pals and a Star Trek officer named, I don't remember what I said her name was.
Who cares?
Marla McGivens or something like that.
Yes, it was Marlon McGivens.
And who was Khan's wife. Now we come to him in this episode, in this movie, and we find that SETI Alpha 6 had been destroyed, which shifted the orbit of SETI Alpha 5, making it completely uninhabitable, except for people who are genetically enhanced. So McGivens died, and the rest of the augments lived, and Khan has been stewing this entire time, blaming Kirk for the death of his wife.
And for them, being marooned on SETI Alpha 5.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's a better fate than SETI Alpha 6, which exploded.
That's true, but then it kind of screwed over SETI Alpha 5, so it's not much better.
Yeah.
I mean, would it be better to be blown to bits, or would it be better to be tortured to death slowly?
I suppose. Good point. I would love to know why SETI Alpha 6 exploded.
Like what caused it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll. Hold on. Unstable planet core.
Okay,
All right.
got it. So, they're just on Ceti Alpha 5, stranded, nowhere to go. And Chekhov's ship. What is it? That's the Reliant.
The Reliant,
Right? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, okay. The Reliant comes
The
along.
Reliant, okay? Huh?
I see what you did there.
I know you did.
What was I saying?
The Reliant goes
The
there.
Reliant goes there. I don't remember why. They thought they were checking out Ceti Alpha 6.
They were checking out Ceti Alpha 6 because they wanted to find a planet for the Genesis project.
Okay.
For phase 3.
Yeah.
Because remember, phase 1 was in the lab,
Mm-hmm.
phase 2 was underground, and phase 3 was to find a suitable host planet, like
Yeah.
a dead rock,
Yeah.
that they could try this thing on.
Yeah. So they wanted to check out Ceti Alpha 6 for that.
Here's my question, just not to break it in or anything, but
cool.
why would they go so close to where they knew this known super criminal was stranded to even risk that?
Well, here's the thing. It was Chekhov.
And then what's his face?
Yeah.
What was his name? Terrell.
Terrell? Captain Terrell?
Yeah, Captain Terrell.
Terrell, whatever it is.
Whatever.
Yeah.
The idiot guy.
Khan is like the last thing on their mind.
I guess, but I don't know.
But anyway, they land on Ceti Alpha 5, thinking it's Ceti Alpha 6, find that it's completely uninhabitable, which, I mean, is good for a Genesis planet, but
Yeah, I mean that's fine, I guess.
yeah. But then they find Khan. And Khan puts these things in their ear that makes them go crazy and go mad with pain. And they, using these things, they convince Chekhov and Terrell to bring Kirk to the science station where Genesis is.
Can I go into slightly more graphic detail because I love that part?
Go right ahead.
Okay. The only native creatures that are left surviving on Ceti Alpha 5 are these like really hard-shelled slug things, these huge jaws, and like they're nasty, mean. And so apparently the larvae live on the backs inside of the cracks in the shells of the adults. So he takes 2 of these little larva things that are all squirmy and squishy, and the thing goes in through your ear, tunnels through down to your brainstem, and attaches itself to it, secreting a chemical that makes you very susceptible to suggestion.
Yes.
Okay, I'm done.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
So the suggestion that they make is for them to call for help. Oh, well, okay, no. The suggestion they make is for them to acquire the Genesis probe.
Right, under the orders of Kirk,
Yes.
under the supposed orders of Kirk.
Yes.
So that they contact Kirk and lure him there.
Correct. Yes.
So they kill 2 Kirks with 1 stone?
Again, technicalities.
With 1 Genesis.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right, they get the band back together. Kirk gets on the Enterprise, goes out to the station, but along the way, they meet up with Khan.
And suddenly, there's a con.
But they don't know it's Khan yet. They just know that it's a.
Suddenly, there's a bad guy.
But they don't even know it's a bad guy.
Suddenly, there's some shit.
The Reliant comes up, and they scramble their communications, so they can never tell if who's the captain or what's going on. And basically, they try to sneak up on the Enterprise, catch them with their pants down, so to speak, or their breeches.
With their britches. He says britches.
Yeah.
I like britches. That's a fun word, britches. I just got to put on some britches.
Yes.
Okay, I'm done.
All right. But Kirk is quick enough to well, he takes the opportunity when when Khan actually contacts them to come up with a plan because okay, now he knows this is actually a bad guy, so they have to come up with a plan, and he gets what was it, the command codes.
Yeah, there are command codes that each Starfleet ship has, and the command codes are there for the express purpose of being able to override the local computer's control
Yeah.
and take control remotely in the event that someone commandeers, steals a ship.
Yeah.
So, knowing this, Kirk has Spock look up the command code for the Reliant, and Spock then enters that code on a on the console there to transfer all of the commands he enters directly to the Reliant, and that way he can take down their shields and leave them as sitting ducks.
Thank you, IT guy.
That's what I'm here for. I like getting technical.
Yeah. And that's what happens. The Reliant is, I don't know about fatally wounded, but wounded anyway, and they run away because they weren't expecting that.
Run away!
But now Kirk knows what to be prepared for in the future. So he knows that Khan is loose and that he's after him. So but they have a mission to finish. So they go off to the science station and they find people dead.
They're dead, Jim. Up, and of course, Bones would be the first one to run into a dead guy.
Yep.
I mean, because why not?
These people are hanging upside down. Khan has apparently looked through this entire station, killed anyone he found, and hung them upside down on the ceiling or something. But a team that included Kirk's old girlfriend, I suppose,
An old flame. We'll call her an old flame.
an old flame,
Yep.
and his son,
The other Kirk.
yeah, they transport down to this planet with the Genesis probe. So Kirk well, I don't know if it's Kirk or if it's Spock that understands that their communications are being monitored. One of them knows
It was.
and signals the other.
I think Kirk was the one that said buy the book 1st. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But either way,
Whatever.
they speak in code to each other. Kirk on the station and Spock on the Enterprise. So Khan thinks that the Enterprise is going to go away and he won't be back for a few days when actually he's going to come back in like a couple minutes or something.
Oh, no, it was
Or a
Spock that said it
few
first.
hours. Okay, well.
Okay, there you go. My bad, dog.
So they transport down to the planet. They find David and what's her name?
Carol. Carol Marcus.
Yeah, there you go. David and Carol are down there on the planet with the Genesis probe, and they find them, and now they're stuck down there with Captain Terrell and Chekhov. And Captain Terrell tries to take over the place because he's being suggested by the little earworms. But Khan then tells him to turn his phaser on Admiral Kirk, and he has a little difficulty with that.
He can't do it. Like he finds it in himself too hard to it's he can't do it, so he ends up turning it on himself.
Yeah.
And then Chekhov, he disobeys and he screams in agony, and you can hear the slug thingy screaming in agony. And then Chekhov passes out, and the slug crawls out of his ear, and then we kill it with phaser, and it kills it with fire.
Yes. Yes, that's basically what happens.
Yep. I like all the graphic, gory parts.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then Kirk contacts Khan
Khan.
And Khan's like, "Oh my goodness, you are still alive."
And Kirk's like, "Yeah, asshole, I'm still alive. What are you gonna do about it?" And Khan says,
I'ma take your Genesis.
I'm gonna take your Genesis, and then I'm gonna do the same thing you did to me. I'm gonna leave your ass here to die."
Khan! That's where that goes in.
Khan! It was twice.
Well, it was an echo, but
Well, whatever. You're pissed off at somebody when it echoes from underneath the planet's surface into fucking space. Which might I remind everyone who's playing along at home, anyone who's playing the home game, remember space is a vacuum. There's nothing in it.
there is no air to vibrate to make noise.
No.
But somehow Kirk found a way. He was so angry.
That's how awesome James T. Kirk is. You do not piss him off. He'll make echoes in space.
So now he's stranded on the test Genesis,
Yes.
the beta Genesis.
The beta Genesis. I like that, by the way. I'm a big fan of the use of beta there.
There you go. So now they have to survive, basically. They have to find some food. So Carol takes them into the Genesis cave, where there's
The
like
cave of Kair Banog. Oh no, wait. Sorry.
where there is like basically a rainforest.
Yeah. Which oddly I never saw any actual food. The only food I saw was that one slice of apple that Kirk had.
That's true. That's true. We didn't see any animals.
She goes, "Can I cook or can't I?" I'm like, "Apparently not, because everything in here is either raw or water." So she didn't cook. Maybe I was taking it too literally.
But Kirk takes that opportunity to explain how he cheated his way out of the Kobayashi Maru.
Yeah, yeah. Savik's like, "So how exactly did you do that?" And Bones is being the good wingman that he is. It's like, "You're looking at the only person who ever beat it," and he's like, "I cheated."
No, but he got okay. This I found interesting. He says he got a commendation for original thinking.
Right.
When we see the same thing happen in the 2009 movie,
He gets court-martialed for it.
well, he gets court-martialed, but that the proceeding doesn't actually end before Admiral Medea gets the notification that they have to go and.
High five for Admiral Medea.
But yeah, they get the emergency signal before that whole proceeding ends. So my thought is there's two options here. Either Kirk is such a jerk in the alternate timeline that that they're not going to give him any commendations, or number two, they were about to give him a commendation, but they were interrupted.
That's fair. Also, if the animated series is canon, then we know that Kirk is a jerk.
Or at least the computer thinks so.
At least the computer thinks
Yes.
so. Damn you, computer.
So anyway, that's just a way to merge the two. Anyway, that's when Spock comes back and they find out that they were using code all along. And then everyone gets back on the ship. Everything's good. They go out to find Khan. And then what happens?
Then they get back on the ship, and so Spock's like, "Okay, not much is working," and he's like, "Well, what it is? We got partial main power. That's it. Well, in 2 hours after we had our ass handed to us, yes, we have partial main power."
Yeah.
So they kind of get back up, and they decide, well, we can't fight him on these grounds because, one, the Reliant can outrun us. Two, the Reliant can outshoot us.
Yeah.
So, hey, there's a nebula. Let's go over there.
Woo!
So they decide to go into the nebula because, well, they go in there.
Evens
then
the playing field.
It evens the playing field because you can't see, you can't aim. You got to do it all manually and, half blind.
Yeah.
So they go into the nebula, and Khan follows them in there. And long story short, they sneak up behind Khan, shoot.
Because they're using three-dimensional thinking
Right. Whereas Khan is he's using two dimensional.
'Cause he's
So
used
they
to-
so they go below, wait for him to pass, and then they come back up behind him, and then they blow him to bloody hell.
Now, I just want to interrupt real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
I think that's a very interesting thing for the writers to pick up on for Khan, because he's a guy who lived in the 20th century.
Where three-dimensional warfare like that wasn't a thing.
It wasn't. I mean, there were planes, but that's it.
Yeah.
He's used to ground tactics and
You're not used to working on like a.
Yeah.
You're used to working on a map that's a two-dimensional grid, not a three-dimensional grid like space.
yeah.
Right.
And that's a very interesting thing, I think, for the writers to pick up on that, because Khan, he spent he spent most of his life in cryogenic freeze, so he didn't know what was going on.
Right.
And when he woke up, he only spent like a day on the Enterprise before he was sent to SETI Alpha 5.
Yes.
So he's been on the ground most of his conscious life,
Pretty much.
and he only knows ground tactics.
Right.
I just thought that was awesome
That is
for
awesome.
them to pick up on. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so after they completely disable the Reliant, like they shoot out its weapons. They like completely obliterate one of the warp nacelles. Khan's like, all right, you know what? Fuck this. So he sets the Genesis device to overload and blow to bloody hell. That's bad.
Yeah.
And our guys figure out, well, this thing's going to blow. Hey, let's disable it. And David goes, you can't disable that thing.
Yeah.
Once that thing is set to blow, it's done. So they have to figure out a way to get out. Well, they have partial main power, but they don't have warp yet.
Right.
And the only way to get warp is to actually fix
Something.
with a lot of radiation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're like, okay, fine. Well,
The point is, you can't get into this place to fix it without being totally irradiated.
right. So Spock is like, everybody chill the fuck out. I got this. So Spock goes down. He goes into the chamber, and Bones and Scotty both try to stop him. Scotty's passed out. Bones is like, you can't go in there. And so Spock uses a little misdirection. And then he takes him, and he uses the Vulcan neck pinch on him to make him pass out. And then he mind melds with him for a moment and says, remember. Then he, while, no one's there to stop him, Spock goes in, fixes it, whatever the hell it was. And at that point, they're able to warp out right before the explosion of the Genesis device, so they're not within range and they don't get injured. They call up to Kirk, and Bones says, Kirk, he goes, I think you need to get down here, Jim. And so he goes down, and Kirk, wants to run in. They hold him back. No, you'll flood the whole compartment with radiation. So Kirk and Spock talk for a second. Spock says, ship out of danger? And he goes, yeah. And, Kirk asks him why. And he goes, the needs of the many outweighed. And Kirk says, the needs of the few. And he goes, or the one. And
What does he say about the Kobayashi Maru? Because that was a good line.
It was a good line. He said, he's like, I've never taken the Kobayashi Maru test before now. And he asked Kirk, he goes, what do you think of my solution? And so they talk for a second. And he says one of the most famous lines, and it's something that's repeated between them at different points all throughout the timeline.
Yeah.
But this was the first time, the second time,
Yeah.
because it was said once earlier in the movie. But this is the first time it really sticks. And he goes, I have been and always shall be your friend. And at that point, he dies. And they send him off. They put him inside of a torpedo tube. And they fire it off onto the Genesis planet below. And you brought up an excellent point when we were watching. You said the thing that gets you about it is not the fact that Spock dies so much, it's the fact that Kirk, being the solid rock that he is, got choked up by something like this.
Yeah.
Something, you know,
That really hit him
something
hard.
hit close to home with the unflappable Captain James Kirk.
Yeah.
And he says, probably, I think, the most famous line in that movie. He says, "Of all the souls I've encountered in my travels, his was the most human." Which, you know, for a guy like Spock, it's expected for him to be Vulcan. He's taken his Vulcan heritage. He's gone down that Vulcan path.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's basically gotten his emotions in check, and that's something he's done over the course of his entire lifetime. Now, granted, he's exhibited some human traits once in a while.
Sure.
I mean, he has, you know, his sarcasm.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Sassy
Oh,
Spock.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's definitely his human
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
But to say something like that, you know, and you see a lot of the people that Kirk has dealt with in over the course of the original series, the animated series, and he's got guys around him like Bones and Scotty and Chekhov. You know, these guys that are so emotional and so rich with this humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got a guy like Spock that seems on the surface to be just so level and cool and collected and never shows any sign of being of like being taken off course.
Yeah.
But then you think about the kind of relationship that Kirk and Spock had. You know, that's a captain and his first officer.
Mm-hmm.
And really, outside of Bones, this is his guy's best friend.
Yeah.
You know? And when you know somebody like that, you learn a lot more about them. You see them from a different angle than most people do.
Yeah.
And for a guy like Kirk is the kind of person who, he reads people like books.
Mm-hmm.
He can. That's
Sure.
You know, that's one of the things that makes him a great captain is his ability to analyze people and situations.
Yeah.
And he knows that below this exterior that Spock has of being a, you know, calm, cool, collected Vulcan,
Mm-hmm.
that Spock really does have a soul.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
He has that humanity deep down, which sets him apart from other Vulcans, like Savick, for example.
Yeah.
You know, you see Savick, and Savick is she's confused by some of the human things, you know?
Right.
Whereas Spock, he doesn't necessarily get them as much, but he has a sort of an innate understanding.
Yeah.
You know? He doesn't get them from a logical level, but he can still process them emotionally.
Yeah. Definitely. Now, the first time we hear "You are and always have been my friend," was that Kirk saying it? Or
No, it was Spock.
It was Spock.
It was in Spock's quarters when Kirk took control of the ship,
Yeah.
because they were going out to the,
With the penny
to
collection.
Regulus One
With the penny collection.
with the penny collection. Yeah. And he was taking command of the ship because, you know, Spock told him, he said, "Look, he's like, for a training mission, that's one thing. But
Yeah.
if we're going for an actual field mission,
Yeah.
this is something that you're qualified to do, not me." And Kirk says, "Well, are you sure?" He's like, "Buddy, I'm Vulcan. I don't have an ego to bruise. Just take control of the ship and just do what you got to do."
I think it's interesting. In the motion picture, we see him almost going through with Kolinar, but then he ends up not going through with Kolinar.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the beginning of his decision that he wants more of a human life.
Yeah. Right. You know, he gets to the point, he's so close of purging himself of all emotion.
Yeah.
But he stops himself.
Yeah.
It's like he can feel that humanity tugging at him.
Yeah.
to where he decides, no, this isn't what I want to do.
Yeah.
This isn't the path I want to choose. And he does what so many people try and fail to do. He does successfully, which is he's able to walk both paths on a very delicate balance.
And then in this movie, he admits to feeling friendship.
He does. He does. Which someone with no emotions obviously wouldn't have that kind of connection.
Sure.
Which friendship is, solely an emotional connection.
Yeah. And in some ways, it makes sense as the end of his character journey,
Yeah.
the end of his quote unquote emotional arc. Most of it being non emotional, but is that he's come to realize that feelings are good and he can work with feelings.
Right.
And this is him declaring basically, this is what I've come to learn in my life. And there you go. Here's the lesson. Now it's my time to die. And so, well, I guess I'll continue that conversation later in the next movie. What happens after he has finished his arc, but
Right.
but now there's more to it.
Right.
I think that covers Spock very well.
I think it does too.
I could not have said it better. What happens in the end? That basically the Genesis planet.
That was
comes-
the Genesis planet's there. You see the formation of the life forms there. They pan over to you see the torpedo tube that they sent at Spock off, and it's come to a nice soft landing there, surrounded by the underbrush and all the trees around that.
Yep.
David comes in and talks to Kirk for a minute, and they have their moment. And David, who's been very resentful toward Kirk this
Oh, yeah.
entire time,
Yeah.
he actually talks to him. He says, he's like, I was wrong about you. He says, I had this preconceived notion about you, and today I learned that you're a much bigger person than that, and I'm proud to call you my father. And they hugged.
Which is the beginning of a very sad story.
Yeah, it is. Which, and also, I think this is the first time I've ever seen Kirk hug somebody.
Besides a woman.
Well, he hugs up on a woman, but not like an actual hug.
Yeah,
like an embrace.
Yeah.
This was, because Kirk's he's not a guy to show that kind of feeling and emotional bond with someone.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, they were celebrating his birthday at the beginning, where Bones gave him a birthday present.
Yeah.
And there was not even so much as a handshake. Of course, they were drinking Romulan ale, so whatever. But the point is, Kirk's not a guy to express himself emotionally in that way. And then he goes and he actually hugs his son, and you see a little bit of that side of Kirk that you've never seen before.
Yeah. We've never really seen Father Kirk.
No.
We've seen
the
dashing young Kirk.
we've seen Captain Kirk.
The crotchety old Kirk.
We've seen politician Kirk. We've seen crotchety old Kirk. Jim, get your old ass out of bed. And we've seen, we've especially in the last movie where, he's reached admiral status and he's like rah 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 rah.
Yeah,
He's already starting to get grumbly,
complaining about being old and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, then this is a new dimension to Kirk. The Scotty, we get the same thing from, because Scotty's usually the engineer that's frantically trying to get everything working.
Yeah.
But then he's got on the initial attack from Khan, he loses one of his engineers, and you see him he gets really worked up over it.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a side of Scotty we've never seen before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think really, all in all, there was a lot of character development in this movie.
There was a lot of things in this movie.
There was, and they put it all together very, very well.
Yes, I think so. I think that covers it.
I think we're done.
That covers everything.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very awesome movie.
Yes.
And if you know someone who hasn't seen it before,
show them this movie, because it's not just a movie for Trekkies or sci-fi
Yeah.
geeks or whatever. This is a movie for anyone. I mean, sure, there are parts of it, and they don't really get too terribly technical in this movie.
Not really, no.
No, I mean, you really watch for the story, and if you know someone who hasn't seen it, show them this movie. This is a great movie for someone who's never seen a Star Trek movie before.
Yeah.
This is a great way to kind of introduce them so that you kind of get to know the characters. And it's a great story.
You've seen Clockwork Orange?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Keep your eyes open.
That's right.
Put it in front of them. Force them to watch it.
It looks way creepier when I do it. It's not surprising.
Okay, so we didn't have any calls again
That's all right.
this week.
But remember that hailing frequencies are open at 513 Asterisk. That's 513-278-7475. It's down below. It's right
Yes.
down there if you're watching the video of this later.
Yeah.
If not, then rewind a few seconds and I'll tell you the number again.
Call day or night whenever you want. We won't answer. You'll get like a voicemail.
Yeah, the machine will pick up and leave us a message. We want to hear your feedback. We want to hear from you. Did you notice today I did the side by side video?
Yeah.
Good
on you.
I let people see my face. Woo. Yeah, we'll see how viewership goes down after this. Let's see. Next week we are watching the next motion picture. We are watching Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. Also another excellent movie. I know people do like the whole rule of odds and evens with Star Trek movies.
Yeah.
But that rule is completely bogus.
Yeah, it is.
Because
I think so anyway.
Yeah, 1 is terrible, 2 is excellent.
Yeah.
3 I think is excellent, and 4 is pretty good too.
You know what makes 3 excellent is the way it follows from 2.
It is. It's 2 to 3 is kind of like it kind of does almost like the Back to the Future 2 to 3.
Yeah.
Where
that's
they
true. I can see that.
now that's not to say that the two were made together, because that's
Right.
obviously not the case.
Sure.
But they're written in such a way they're excellent movies by themselves, but they're even better together.
Yeah.
And then we've got 4, which I think was pretty good.
I love a good comic relief movie.
Yeah. 5 was all right. It was
5 and 6 were not as memorable as the
Yeah.
rest of them, but they're still pretty good.
Yeah. Well, 5.
The only thing that comes to mind right now about either 5 or 6 that I can clearly remember vividly is Klingon yogurt blood.
The one thing that comes to my mind clearly.
What?
The only thing about those two movies is, what does God need with a starship?
Yes, that's it.
That's all I can think about.
Yes, okay.
But anyway, so
Join us next week for Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock.
Spock.
And until then, remember to help control the tribal population.
Have your tribble spayed or neutered.
Live long and prosper.
Goodbye, everybody.